Welcome to Coming Home, Surviving and Thriving in Homeschooling. I received a question this week. How do you deal with a defiant child? My son makes everything an argument until he wants to do something. Then you are supposed to jump. He wanted to learn to read and was all for it. Now, 30 lessons in, he fights every time we do it. I'd love some suggestions on how to get back to liking to learn. Hello, Hartley's Handmaid, and thank you for your question. I'm sure you won't be the only one interested in my reply. I popped a few initial thoughts onto the Coming Home YouTube page on which you asked your question. But here is the promised episode so I can do a deeper dive on it. I think many listeners' ears will prick up, recognizing their situation in your question. The following is for parents of defiant children in general, as well as taking in the specifics of the question. Upon reading, my first thought was, try to stay calm. It's important, and I well know it's easier said than done. Staying calm does at least two things. It lessens the likelihood of the situation deteriorating more than it would if you lost the plot and it becomes a yelling match. You will both manage the immediate situation better if negative emotions are not increased. Also, and perhaps more importantly, your choice to stay calm shows your child he doesn't control you. My second thought was, remember you are the parent and he is the child. So that makes you in charge in a firm and loving way. Is he tired, hungry, or upset? Is there a time of the day you notice his reaction is worse? You will know what to do if you have said yes. I would suggest deciding what your non-negotiables are for the day, and if he's old enough, include him in planning how you're going to do what he must do and what he wants to do. For example, after he's had a short reading lesson, he can do an activity you have agreed on. Lego, for instance, a puzzle, go outside and shoot some hoops, or 15 minutes of an approved screen time. You're negotiating with him, which is, after all, a valuable life skill. Maybe after he's done some maths, you will read aloud to him, or he can play a maths game. Be sure to have books on hand which are interesting to him that he wants to read. Early phonic readers don't offer a lot of choice as they are teaching the basics, and there's not a lot of scope there for story and plot. Once he knows how to sound out short and long vowels and his consonants, plus recognize a few sight words, he will be in the early stages of being equipped enough to read simple books with subjects he's interested in. From here, you can teach him other phonic rules as he comes across them. I will be forever grateful to Tintin, Asterix, and the Hardy Boys for introducing our son to the love of reading. Before these, reading was an effort he did not enjoy. I don't remember how, but these came into his life, and that was that. I kept feeding him good books, and he devoured them. I realize this isn't foolproof. One of our children found reading difficult all through the school years, but reading was learned as it's needed for life, so a lot of books were read aloud and audiobooks employed for this child. Other things to take into account include shortening the lesson times, change the book or curriculum. Most boys tend to be audio or kinesthetic hands-on learners rather than visual. As homeschoolers, there are many options, so if one style doesn't work for you, try another one. The aforementioned son in his early years learnt better if he read aloud to himself rather than quiet reading. You mention until he wants to do something, then you are supposed to jump. He has come up with the idea of what to do, but he's not in charge of what and when. You are. He can, however, contribute to help the decision-making. It could also be a lesson on compromising. His ideas of what to do may be good, but we must do such and such first, as he knew from you telling him how the morning was going to go. Perhaps he's a child who doesn't like surprises and gets upset when what he was expecting was changed, even though it was a good change. We had a child like that. He just needed to know what was happening and to be given fair warning when a change of plan was imminent. If it turns to custard, I would have him in his room until he had calmed down. No play, stay on the bed or the floor, and he can come out again when he feels calm and ready to apologize. Give him a hug and start again. Resist the temptation to aggravate or upset him just because you can as the adult. Punishing him inappropriately for poor behavior is a negative feedback loop. I highly recommend reading Chapter 5 of Dr. Jordan Peterson's 12 Rules for Life. Actually, I recommend reading the entire book. Always apologize to him if you know you need to. This demonstrates an important character trait of willingness to admit when you are wrong and to say sorry without justification, which is not an apology. Your boy is going to need to learn how to do this. Bear in mind, a stronger personality can dominate your time and steal from a more passive child or children. So work on being proactive rather than reacting to demands of the child. At first glance, it seems a simple fairness issue, but it's more than that. Giving more time to any child over another will highly likely result in resentment and jealousy from the other children and neglect of them. If you need to arrange childminding or dropping your child to grandparents to spend one-on-one time with the more compliant, then make plans to implement this regularly, but also within the everyday routine of around the house. The squeaky wheel tends to get oiled, but you don't want other wheels becoming loose and falling off without you noticing they also needed your attention. All of our children need us. And this includes time for yourself, as all children are naturally demanding of you. Find my podcast about looking after you. It's number 3. Don't forget to tell him when he responded well, especially if he initiated it. Tell him how proud you are of his trying to tell you things in a respectful way, or how he read without complaint. This is a long-term project for you as his parent. You may need to implement some strategies which will make the next little while a bit of a bumpy road. However, learning new habits and overcoming or improving character flaws takes time and more years than we'd like. That's why they're children for so long. It takes years to grow a responsible young adult. This parenting lark is a serious business, but you will reap what you sow. Young men and women who are contributing to society in a productive way and know how to think don't happen by accident. They're grown over many years of diligent and consistent parenting. Learning to do what needs to be done and allowing for plenty of creative time doesn't have to be two different things. With a little planning, they can sometimes be combined. There will always be chores in life we'd rather not do. Making my bed every morning, for instance. It's not something I enjoy or dislike, It's just something that I do. But knitting, aha, there's something I could do for hours. But there are tasks I must also do. I have learned the importance of what must be done and what I want to do. There is another option that at first glance seems to contradict some of the above, but it can be used in a complementary way as part of a parent's multi-choice actions. That is, to simply back off. It may be an immediate good solution, especially if things have gotten a little tense lately. If you opt for this strategy, be sure to let him know you're not changing your mind about him learning to read. You're just taking a little break for a while to do some other learning. I wouldn't allow free play as a replacement, as that's just making it too attractive for him. You could give him a range of educational activities to choose from. Definitely read aloud to him so he's continuing to hear good English, a broadening range of vocabulary and phrasing, and a rollicking good story. It's education, and he won't even know it. This approach can be implemented any time it seems the wise thing to do. Now, I want to talk about the plus side of your defiant but darling boy. If he learns to develop this part of his personality into a strong character, in his future he will less likely to be easily led and more likely to be an influential person for the good. Coming up with sudden ideas can be trained into a fantastic strength. Too often life knocks our creativity and differences down and encourages us to be passive, doing only what we're told and being the same as everyone else. But our world needs innovators and inventors. These are the children who grow up being allowed to think, allowing for and training their curiosity, ideas and creative abilities that makes them even more capable. Perhaps you have an engineer in the making, or the discoverer of a cure for a disease. Strong children become strong adults, but it's up to the adults in his life, especially the parents, to make strong an excellent character trait and not a weakness. A strong but humble adult is a pleasure to live with and to have lead. Otherwise, the child will likely grow up to be a bully. Defiant children who have been appeased throughout their childhood grow up into unpleasant and disliked adults. Short-term peace might look attractive, but it's a false peace. Another advantage of parenting a demanding child is it will stretch and grow your character as well. It's hard work having a defiant child. They are very different from a compliant one. If the above doesn't seem to be helping at all and you feel stuck, then perhaps it's time to get some professional help. Thank you again, Hartley's Handmaid, for submitting your question. I sincerely hope this will help you and your lad getting back to enjoying learning most of the time. To you and all the other parents at the coalface of educating your children, keep on keeping on.